How would you feel if we had a kid who came to us and said, I'm gay or I'm trans?
My dad used to go to the store for me and Johnny to get tampons and shit all the time.
We have one heck of a guest today.
My first Olympics was in 2022 in Beijing. Definitely an unconventional experience since it was during COVID. That conversation has stuck with me. You skate, it might be awful, it might be amazing, but you're putting yourself out there.
We are back with season 2. It's Lauren Deletsky.
And I'm Jackie G.
And this is the Clack podcast. Deep breaths, Jack.
I feel like you need this because you are just in a shit ton of traffic, and traffic makes people want to fucking kill other people.
You could not be more accurate on that. For anybody that lives in a major metropolitan city, we all know traffic is horrific. I spend a lot of time in the car, but I was very excited to get here. So thank you for that little breathing exercise, that moment.
It's needed.
I really needed
We
that.
all needed it, as did I.
I feel like you're a very zen person. Like, you're pretty good about managing stress.
I'm a zen person, but when I don't sleep, and I'm like going through a period right now where sleep is absolutely fucked.
That's fair. That's fair. But it felt good to actually start the episode. So if you're out there with us, we want you to take a deep breath. Just a big deep breath.
Inhale and exhale.
Geniuses' minds,
Yeah.
They never sleep. So
No.
So maybe you are a genius.
I mean,
We're
I would
genius.
not go that far, but
Anyways, welcome back to Clack. We're
Welcome.
so happy to have y'all here. Remember, like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, because we are growing our community. We want you to be part of it, and we just love talking to people who follow us.
that was the most anti-cringy thing that you did. That was so
Really?
well done.
Oh, thanks, Jack.
I know
appreciate it.
we stress about that. Like
We
and
do.
subscribe, but here we are.
Yeah, we don't like to be cringe and super marketing-y. We're just like, this is us.
But
you
it was
know?
necessary, and you did it really well. Good
Thanks,
job.
girl. Well, we have a lot to talk about today, so we're going to just get into it here. There's so much going on in women's sports. I mean, Jackie and I are literally texting 24/7, 365 about all the headlines, and we've got some good topics today.
Yes, we do.
So should we get into the drip?
Let's do it.
Drip, 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 drip.
Trip drop.
I'm excited to talk about personally my favorite time of the year, which is Pride. I have always loved Pride. And I know you have a lot of opinions about Pride and sports. Sport is such an important place to feel safety. And we hear that a lot, like when we've had athletes on the podcast or we've talked to athletes out in the community who are out athletes.
I think it's one thing to say, I love that you're not necessarily part of the LGBTQ community, but you support it heavily, which I love. As someone who is part of that community, I have always strayed away from celebrating it because I've always been somewhat not ashamed of it, but just more reserved because I am actually part of the LGBTQ community.
It's good for me to pause and listen because I'm the ultimate hype woman.
Yes, you are.
I care about supporting people. I care about human rights. I care about love is love. And I can't imagine living in a world or in a community where I wasn't accepted for who I am. And so I want to always be the biggest ally and the person that's rallying behind the people.
You do that really well.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I think sometimes I get overzealous though and too excited. So I really tried to take that moment to pause and listen to what you were saying because everybody's journey is different. So what was it like for you coming out, going into such a high profile in sports, in the W, within the league?
Yeah. I think for me, when I entered the WNBA, I felt more safe than I had ever felt before being a part of a league. Playing overseas, I never felt safe being an out athlete. In college, I was still very reserved and it wasn't something I was super comfortable to talk about. In high school, I didn't even admit that I was. So I think when I got to the league, it was a place where I could really express myself and it was a place that I felt safe. And not that I was this very out athlete at the time, but I wasn't afraid to talk about it. I wasn't afraid to refer to my girlfriend as my girlfriend or publicly say it in an interview or something like that. So I felt like I was around a lot of people that were just like me and a lot of people that accepted it, and it was almost like a normal thing. And I've never really experienced that before that. As time has gone on, it has become even more of a safe space, and you see so many athletes that have families, that have wives, that have kids, you know, it's a normal situation for everyone. And I think that it's such a beautiful thing. Like I said, growing up, it always wasn't like that. You always felt like you had to hide something. And I just think the WNBA has just like entered into this space that this is okay and that everyone is entitled to love who they love. And I just love to see, major athletes like Breanna Stewart and Sue Bird. There's people in the WNBA that date each other, and it's just like, it's such a normal thing and it's so accepted. And I love it. I think it's fucking awesome.
I do too. I'm so here for it. And we don't like to get political on this show, of course, but I think it's hard not to admit that LGBTQ rights, a lot of human rights are under attack in this country. Mm-hmm. And for me, being in a space of like where all we talk about is women's sports and just the inclusivity we're seeing right now feels like such a polarization of what we're seeing in other places and spaces. And so I think, again, for people that need a place of safety and inspiration and empowerment, especially during Pride Month, right, mm-hmm. which is supposed to be such a celebratory time.
Yeah.
For allies, for people in the community, it's celebrating love.
For sure.
Like focus your attention there on women's sports and like finding a safe space for you.
I love the fact that we have Pride Month and that these athletes are being celebrated. But what I would like to see more, that these athletes are being celebrated and brands are not just activating with certain athletes in the month of June, but year round. You know what I mean?
That's right. I couldn't agree more. And I think intentionality is super important.
So, Elle, how would you handle your kids coming out if they ever did?
The first thing I can tell everybody is when I met my husband, I met him when I was 22. Wild. We've been together like 15, 16 years. One of the first things I said to him is like, how would you feel if we had a kid who came to us and said, I'm gay or I'm trans? And he said, I would 100% accept them. And I was like, okay, you've passed the first test. Because for me, I couldn't imagine raising a child who couldn't be exactly who they are with us mm-hmm. and in our family. And I don't care how they identify, if they come out as trans, like mom and dad will be there for you. That's
beautiful.
So important to me, and I will help them and I will listen to them and I will let them tell me when I mess up. I want my kids to feel 100% safe at home.
I think that's so beautiful, especially as millennials growing up. We didn't necessarily always get that from our parents. Mm-hmm. I think you have a mix of both. Like my situation was great and easy, but for example, my wife Carla's situation wasn't as easy. Mm-hmm. So I think because we have evolved and have grown up in a time that we've kind of seen both situations and we've evolved, we are setting a really good example for our kids that we're raising right now. So I think your and Nick's outlook on everything is absolutely amazing, and your kids are going to feel so safe and love you forever.
I can tell you that's the most important thing, is just making sure your kids feel like they have every opportunity.
Love that. I think you do a great job.
Thank you. I mean, I got to learn about a new athlete that I didn't know about before. Her name's Emma Gee. Shout out to Emma Gee. She came out as the first athlete at BYU. And I lived in Utah for 6 years. I know what a conservative lives on. And I think it's just a reminder and a testament to that. When you are truly who you are and you take that stance, like think about how many people she's going to inspire, has inspired, and will continue to inspire.
Those are absolutely the types of stories that we should be listening to and watching. What she did was obviously so brave. Not only did she get a ton of support, but she also got a ton of hate mm-hmm. along the way. And I think that is so hard to experience at such a young age. She was in college when that happened. So I just can't imagine everything that she's been through. She's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So shout out to Emma, and shout out to all the athletes that have taken that leap and taken a stance. And it's hard in a world that people so easily will just tear you down. So just very excited for us to celebrate this Pride Month.
It's definitely going to be on our calendar this year.
That's what's up. And globally, go to your Pride in your city. And as Jackie said, celebrate Pride 365, 24/7.
Okay, so Elle, I want to talk about girl dads. Father's Day is approaching soon, and I think that this is a really good opportunity for us to hit on girl dads and how amazing they are.
I think one of the audiences that is incredibly underserved is dads of girls. Mm-hmm. Like we've talked about this on the episode before, that our dads are like the ride or dies in our lives.
Our rocks.
Our rocks.
For
like
sure.
My dad from day one of starting this company and every step in my journey in my life, he has always been a rock. My mom too, but like girls' relationships with their dads, there's just something really deep and special there when there's a good relationship. Women getting more money, more opportunity, taking bigger stances in sports and in other industries, they want to understand us better. They want to know how to raise a girl in sports. Yeah. And so I really think we should talk for a second about dads of girls and that being such a undertapped, undervalued audience when we talk about women's sports.
Yeah, no. For sure. I mean, I my mind goes straight to Courtney Williams and her dad's relationship. It is like one of the few relationships of a dad and a professional athlete that I like actually get to see, and you get to see how they interact. And it's such a moment because he comes to the games, he's in her jersey, he's yelling, he's screaming, he's cheering her on. And it's so cool, but I don't really see it all that often. And I think of my dad growing up who was raised with 3 sisters. He was such a mama's girl. And then he had me and my sister. So he was always around girls. He was the ultimate girl dad. He raised us to be, little sports tomboys. And he had his flair on how he wanted to raise us. But he was just such a soft, incredibly supportive dad. And I'm just so grateful to have had that experience because not everyone's lucky enough to have it.
Well, and you think about single dads, right? Raising kids. Those situations do not get the attention they deserve. Going back to when you're a parent, you are if you're a good parent, you just want your kids to succeed. And I think now with the spotlight being shined on women's sports, dads are going to ask even more questions. They're going to know that hey, if my girl's on her period and she's playing hard in a lateral sport, maybe we should spend a little time recovering and not pushing her too hard. These are the moments that we need to educate because men still are the most dominant in this country. We have such an opportunity to change that, right? Yeah. And there should be an equilibrium, but I want to specifically call out a dad of a girl that really inspired me. My husband and I were at the Leon Bridges concert for our anniversary, and one of his good friends, Matt Thorsen.
What's up, Matt?
Yeah, he came up to us. He's the kindest, sweetest, most wonderful man. Nick's known him since college, but I haven't seen him in a really long time. And one of his first things was Lauren, I love your podcast, and here's why. I'm a dad of 2 girls. He was a hooper. He played in college, and just basketball's a big part of his identity. But the way he framed it and why he was listening to our podcast, because he wants to hear the female point of view. He also has sisters, your dad, grew up around women. And I was just so inspired by that level of vulnerability and being I'm here because I want to know what my girls are going to go through. And I want to hear it through the voices of women who have been through it from different sides of sport.
100%.
And I was just say less. Yeah. Matt. Anyways, Matt, we are big fans of you, and someday you'll meet Jackie, hopefully.
Matt, I'm obsessed with you from afar. I cannot wait to meet you. But I think there's something to say about, in this generation, him raising 2 girls and women's athletes having more of the platform that they have now. They're really amazing role models. I'm not saying every single one of them, but you look at a lot of these athletes, and as a dad, why wouldn't you want your kid to follow, certain athletes and try and become like them or be as great as them? Because there's so many incredible stories out there that are being told right now, whereas 10 years ago they weren't. So no one really knew. How could we look up to this person? We know nothing about them.
100%.
So the power of storytelling, we always talk about, it's so important.
And storytelling from a multidimensional lens.
100%.
Because
yes.
We always talk about, not most girls don't make it to the elite levels you did, Jack, but there's still such a power in helping them feel so connected to their sport that it sort of translates through their life. And I think that's, again, why dads, parents, good parents are so important. And so, Matt, we love that you came up. I love that you came up to me and asked me that question and told me how you were feeling, because sometimes it's easy to sit behind the mic and just be oh, we're just doing this. Is anybody listening? But then to hear that people are and that it's making an impact, that's why we're here. It is a season of celebrating people, and Father's Day is coming up. And so just want to shout out to all the girl dads out there that are raising strong women in sports and out of sports, and just keep asking questions and be okay being a little uncomfortable when it comes to women's health.
Yeah, well, now that I'm looking back on it and thinking through things, my dad used to go to the store for me and Johnny to get tampons and shit all the time. He used to know exactly when we were on our periods. I remember I started my period for the first time when I was I don't know, 11 or 12 at a game at halftime, and I just like screamed. I was like, Dad, get in here. And like he had to come in, and I like showed him all my blood and my
God.
Yeah, like I was like, and you know,
Steve.
and he was just there for me, my rock. And he was just like, oh, I got you. Don't worry. We'll figure this out. You know, and he was the one that was there because he was at my game. It wasn't like my sister was there or anyone else. So like, yeah, shout out.
I mean, Steve, we freaking love you. How many times are we going to say this?
I just got really detail oriented on this podcast, but like, it's the truth. I'll never forget that.
Literally, like, let's destigmatize the fact that blood comes out. Like, I mean, it's just what happens to more than 50% of the population.
Yeah,
so,
it's fucked, but here we are. It is what it is.
Here we are.
And you and I are both currently bleeding.
Currently bleeding right now on this podcast.
on the same cycle.
My feeds were recently completely flooded with SI swimsuit fashion show.
I bet they were.
Sports Illustrated, we all know, has always been at the kind of forefront of culture and sports storytelling. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, in what I was so captivated by with this specific SI swimsuit season is just the athletic bodies on display. It blew my mind after seeing that.
Yeah.
It was such a powerful, amazing moment, and to see like so many women's bodies being celebrated and strength being celebrated as sexy. I want to give flowers to SI Swimsuit and just also all the women who activated around it, because for me it was the first time that I was like, wow, strength is becoming so damn sexy, and I'm fucking here for it.
No, same. Now that you're like talking through each athlete, I was like, oh yeah, I have seen that, and I did check that out, and it was really, really cool. Very different than what we're used to seeing. And I would just say, like, from a brand perspective, I hope that it's not just like a trendy moment and it's always going to be celebrated, which I think it is, not to like make it a negative thing, because I definitely think it's positive. But yeah, I mean, all of these women, they looked so freaking good, and they were so beautiful, so strong. And beauty is not just one thing. It's not just stick figure, skinny and long and tall and blonde hair. You know, it's a mixture of everything now. And I think that's so important, and it's such a beautiful thing to see.
And something else that just released this week that I want to tack on to this conversation is Pinterest. And they released a stat that there was over 2,000% growth in searches on Pinterest for WNBA tunnel fits.
That's fire.
That's, and I'm all
crazy.
What? So between the SI swimsuit moment and then Pinterest being a platform where they're proactively sharing stats about the growth of women in sports fashion, I'm like, fashion industry, listen up.
Yeah.
Listen up. Like, this is going to be the future.
I contribute to that stat because I also now go on Pinterest to look at WNBA and NBA fits for that.
Really?
Yeah, I genuinely do.
You're a Pinterest girly?
No, I'm typically not, but I have been like starting to since like the tunnel fit era started. Like, I would go to Pinterest to see outfits.
I would love to see a brand like Pinterest really invest in women's sports beyond just like search data, which I'm sure they will. Like, so many brands are trying to figure it out right now. But I just thought that was a really interesting growth stat, and it happened in and around SI swimsuit moment. But yeah, it just, again, it shows women's industries, and we talk about it all the time. We're going to keep beating that drum. They are coming in hot. That was a good drip today.
I agree. I think we hit on some really key topics.
So much good stuff in women's sports. Should we head over to our phone a friend section?
I think we should.
We have one heck of a guest today.
I cannot wait until she comes on.
She is one multidimensional woman. So should we get to it?
Let's do it. Ding-a-ling-a-ling!
Brooklyn, welcome to the show. Brooklyn is a competitive Olympian speed skater, but speed skating is not the only thing that she's amazing at. So we felt like she was the perfect multidimensional woman to bring on the show and introduce to our audience. And Brooklyn, we're just so stoked to have you here.
Yes, we are.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that means a lot to me. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
So let's jump right into it. Brooklyn, could you talk to us a little bit about your background and how you got into sports and how you made it to the Olympics?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Calgary, Alberta, in Canada, and I actually grew up playing hockey, which is basically where a lot of us start in Canada. And I grew up playing a lot of different sports, but I played hockey until I was 15, but then I got a chance to try long track speed skating. Luckily in Calgary, we do have the Olympic oval, and if it wasn't for the oval, I definitely would not be a long track speed skater. So I was very grateful for that. And there's only 3 covered ovals in Canada. So, but as soon as I tried speed skating, I immediately fell in love with the sport. I loved the technical aspect. I loved how fast you go on the ice. And now, yeah, I'm heading into my 11th season of speed skating. And my first Olympics was in 2022 in Beijing. Definitely an unconventional experience since it was during COVID, but still incredible. And the lessons I learned from that were amazing. So it was really a really great journey to this point.
We also brought you on the show because sport is just one part of your identity. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about your artistic side and your creative side and what you've accomplished there? Because it is remarkable.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So art has been honestly a part of my life for as long as sport has been. And I grew up surrounded by pretty amazing artists. My grandma and my grandpa were both artists. And so I was always just doing art when I was younger. And when I think it was in 2019, my grandpa passed away at the end of 2019, and I was really close with him. And he's just one of those really special souls, and such a giving person as well. And we went for lunch a few months before he passed. And this was when I was kind of in the middle of university, and I did want to get back into art. And so I was talking to my grandpa about that, and he just said, I really think you should just get back into it and like see where it takes you. And that conversation has stuck with me. It was obviously so special coming from him, but it just felt like such a turning point, or like a sign from the universe, that I really needed to look into take this seriously and look into that, because art is a part of my identity. And so basically after the Beijing Olympics in 2022, and I was dealing with post-Olympic depression, and also I was really tired, and I didn't really know how to process the emotions of the Olympics and of COVID. And I think it just all started to kind of bubble over. And so I really started to just dive right back into art. And it was such an incredible outlet for my mental health. I got an email from the Olympian organization that they were doing a call for applications for the Olympian Artist Program, which was Olympians who also practice different art forms. And so I applied to potentially have my art on display in Paris 2024. My application got accepted. And so I went to the Olympics last summer in Paris as an artist this time. So it was so amazing. And I wanted to take a feminist approach to my art. And I wanted to showcase female Olympians in a way that I hadn't really seen before, because I started to do research into when women were first allowed to participate in the Olympics. And again, it all kind of lined up so perfectly that the first time women were allowed to compete was in Paris 1900. And then 124 years later, Paris 2024 was the first full gender parity Olympics among athletes. And so it was just like this full circle moment. And I knew I had to do this project. And so I painted the first 3 female Olympic champions of Paris 1900. I did so much research into each of them. I wrote fictional but historically accurate articles on each of them because they didn't receive any recognition for it. One of them even lived her whole life not knowing that she was an Olympic champion. So it was just one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And I'm really grateful that the Olympic Museum has this opportunity for Olympians to express themselves creatively and showcase themselves in different ways. And because I think, again, we all put ourselves in those boxes, but it's really cool when you see those spots overlap. And so it was amazing. I'm really, really grateful for that experience.
I feel like we both have a lot to say. First of all, what an incredible story. Talk about multidimensional. Like, I think as a former athlete, like, we do get put into that box where it's just like you do your sport, you work at it every day, you're constantly in the gym, you're trying to get better and better and better, and like you don't really have the capacity or the mind space to think about other things while you're trying to be great at one thing. So the fact that you were able to take kind of a break, and I know you took a break for like mental health reasons and things like that, which I also applaud you for your bravery for speaking, about that as well. But I think it's so cool that you were able to kind of put that aside and focus on something else that like meant a lot to you because of your grandpa and everything else, and you took that leap of faith. And I'm just like very inspired by your story. So thank you for sharing.
Brooklyn, I feel like you are like one of those athletes and people, women who come on our show where Jackie and I can both see ourselves in you. I think it's really important for stories like yours to be told, especially in the women's sports space, but also for women, because I think your athlete mindset is what makes you so successful, right? Like that moment to know when you need a break. And I think, but also seeing that you are this beautiful, amazing artist, and like how many little girls who might not see themselves as an Olympian, but like, wow, I want to be an artist like Brooklyn. Like, that's why we need to tell more stories like yours out to the world, because women are so multidimensional. We can do so many things, and sport can be an integral part of our whole life. But then there's other aspects like art and fashion and things that like women really gravitate to that make us really special. So I love your story so much. And
Same.
Or do you see a moment in the future where like your sport and art might intersect even more as you head towards Milan 26?
I had this conversation with another speed skater who is a photographer, so artistic in another way. And we were talking about, this was before I started to showcase my art online. And I had a separate art account. I kept it private. I just wanted to kind of slowly build it. And I was so nervous about that vulnerability. And he was saying how you have to, that's the difference between kind of sport and art is, sport, for speed skating, you go on the line, you skate, it might be awful, it might be amazing, but you're putting yourself out there and you don't really have a choice because you're there and it's happening. As an artist, you have to you can keep your art quiet and you can keep it to yourself and no one has to see it, but you make that choice to show it to someone. And that's where I got really nervous. And when we were talking about that, I realized that was kind of that barrier. In the past year, I've already started to notice that. I volunteer as an athlete mentor for an organization called Classroom Champions. And I started to open up to my classrooms about my art, and I started to show them my art. And now students are coming up to me, showing me their art and showing me what they're doing in school. And it made me want to cry because that's what I want. And that's what my goal is. And if I'm, having a hard day, I always think about those kids. And this is a huge reason why I want to do this. And so, yeah, it's been so cool. And I really just hope it snowballs from here.
So Brooklyn, I know you had mentioned having like post-Olympic depression. Could you talk a little bit more about that? I know I had listened to a podcast that Simone Biles was on, and she spoke to having a similar situation. So I'm just curious if you're okay with opening up about that. Like, what was that like for you and why did you get to that point?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something, even with our sports psychologists on our team and leading into Beijing, and we talk about it, and it's something that's known among athletes is that, you might have those post-Olympic blues or the post-Olympic depression. And honestly, I didn't think it was going to hit me. I thought, oh, well, I have so much to look forward to. I'm so excited for this next, the next 4 years and this whole journey, that I didn't think it was going to hit me. And basically, as soon as I got home, I think it was just the stress and the anxiety around COVID as well. That was a huge part of it. This has been my childhood dream. And then it happens and it's a reality. And your head's kind of just spinning when you're there. And I was trying to soak it in as much as I could. And I think, again, because of COVID, my family, none of our families could be there. And so that was something that I think kind of felt like a barrier, because I am so close with my family. I'm so close with my parents. And when I came home, I was trying to put it into words how it felt. And it was hard because they weren't there and they didn't understand it in some ways. And I think it was it was just that moment of you're on this huge high, and then all of a sudden it's like the biggest crash because you're so tired. You've done everything you could to get to that moment, and you're just kind of you're holding yourself together. And then yeah, afterwards you finally let that, like, just let yourself breathe, and you just realize, I think, all the things that I had been keeping, locked up in me for years, just started to come out. And that was something I was just an emotional wreck for months afterwards. And I started to work with our sports psychologist that was with us, and they were great, but having a separate therapist that you can work through those things, and a lot of different events, and working with someone that was completely outside and external of high performance sport was what I needed to kind of feel human again. It was a very strange feeling, and I think I could have been a little bit more, like, just kinder to myself after the Olympics, of maybe I should have taken a little bit more time off because I kept getting sick and I kept getting injured, and I just needed to take that break and step away from sport for a little bit, and then come back into it with a bit of a different mindset. And yeah, so it was it's very interesting, and I think each athlete kind of goes through it in different ways. But I think for me it was that the emotional stuff that I've kept in me for so long, it just kind of all came to the surface after the Olympics.
I think it's super interesting that you use the term bottled up. And I think a lot of athletes bottle up their emotions, whether it's like an Olympic year, whether it's just like a regular professional season. There's so many things that are bottled up, and like they're on the high of the season. And then after the season's over, or after the Olympics are over, it's like, okay, all these emotions come to the surface. And it's like, okay, like I just reached like the pinnacle, potentially the pinnacle of my career, and like all these different things were happening, and then it's over with. And it's like, okay, now you're sitting with everything that you had been bottling up for so long. And I think the important message here is just like, through those bottled up moments, like being able to speak to people and speak to your teammates, speak to your friends and family, and like not keep those things super bottled up, because like I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've experienced that too. Obviously not the Olympics, but just in different ways. But again, like I don't think you're alone in that experience. I think a lot of athletes have also went through it too.
And like that's really great advice. Like sometimes you need to separate yourself from your community and find someone who can be really impartial or like unbiased, right? So I really think that like athletes like you and Jack, like you guys, it's so powerful to hear you speak on these things, because it inspires the masses to take action too. So thank you so much for being so open about that, because I'm sure it was a roller coaster of a time, but look where you are now, and like you did the work, and that's amazing. Right.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Brooklyn.
We have absolutely loved having you on the show. I think you're going to bring a ton of inspiration to so many people, and like little girls and women who can feel more deeply connected in sport through art and creativity. So just keep on that path, because you're killing it, girl.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys are just amazing. You have inspired me. I've listened to so many of your episodes, and I love it. So thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
Wow, Elle, that was so great. I honestly didn't expect for her story to hit me as hard as it did. Talk about multidimensional, which we love here on this podcast. I thought she was so brave in how she was able to talk about the things that she went through, and her going through depression and all of those things. Those are such real things, and I feel like a lot of athletes can relate to her in different ways. She's done so much with her platform. She's been able to express herself in her sport and also out of her sport too, and just create a different pathway for herself that I think is so inspiring for so many other athletes to be able to see. We all have great ideas and we all want to do things, but we're so tied up into our sport. So it was just really fascinating to hear her story and just hear her talk about her journey.
Yeah. And I want to call out the fact that I think she's our first athlete from another country. From
Let's
Canada.
go.
So
I love that.
Yeah. And obviously we love our friends in the North, But yeah, I second what you said. It's one reason I love what we're doing, because we just get to meet the most amazing of people and women.
Yeah, she is.
You know, she just really, it feels so authentic. It feels real. She's so easy to connect with. And I think those are the human sides of athletes that we don't always get to see. Yeah. All right, we're getting to the end here, girl. Let's get into it. Slam dunks and air balls. Let's go.
Let's go.
Do you want to start with your slam dunk?
I like to start with the air ball first.
Go.
Get
air
the
ball.
bad out first and then
out.
end with the good. Okay, for me, my airball of the week is allergies. Something that has been absolutely wrecking my ass.
Preach.
I genuinely feel like I got into a bar fight with a pollen cloud. I was thinking about this and I'm like, holy shit, like I feel like I've just been punched time after time. And I've also scratched out all of my Botox and my crow's feet. So Nikki, Summer Aesthetics, I'm coming for you.
I mean, girl, say less. I feel like every time we see each other, we're both complaining about our allergies.
It's so fucked. It's this time of the year, but it's like heightened right now. Like I have these like trees in front of my house that are just blowing pollen in my eyeballs. It's awful.
Well, I'm sorry, Jack. That sucks. I mean, I feel it too, but you know, it ebbs and flows for me. So
yeah. Enough about my allergies. Let's hear about your airball.
So my airball of the week is news headlines.
We know some of these headlines can trigger your ass.
Yeah, I get real triggered. So let me just read you all a headline right now from ABC News. Only 25% of moms in the U.S. report excellent mental health, marking an alarming decline.
That's a very intense title.
So let me start with the positive of this. Mental health is so important to talk about. We know that women are increasingly taking a lot more stress, especially because most households have to have 2 working parents. Like the family values that once existed in this country are no longer the same because the cost of living is too high. I'm going to speak about this from a millennial mom perspective. When I see headlines like that, I'm like, thank you for at least talking about the fact that we're struggling with mental health, but I'm also like, duh. Like our generation is in like, I think $1 trillion of debt because of college and other things that we took out. We've gone through 2 recessions. The average cost of childcare in this country is astronomical. When I see a headline like that, I'm like, duh.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so what are the solutions here? And like, you think about it, buying your first home at 51 years old.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't set a precedence for success in this country. So I'm like, when I see headlines like that, I'm like, yes, thank you for talking about mental health, but also frickin' duh. And that's all I have to say about that airball. Moving along to the positive. So what is your slam dunk of the week, Jack?
I love ending the show on a positive note. And every 6 months, I do my breast checkup because breast cancer runs in my family. My mom had it and my sister had it as well. And me and my mom both randomly, without even knowing, had our 6-month breast checkup yesterday. And she had told me, I asked her how her day was, and she said, oh, it was good. I had my breast checkup. Everything was good. I'm in the clear. And I was like, oh my gosh, how crazy. I had mine too. Like, everything was good, Mom. I'm in the clear. And it just like brought happiness to me because every time, you know, my parents go to a doctor's appointment, they're getting older. And when they get a clean bill of health, that's literally something that I pray for every single day. So it was just it was a happy moment for me, and I was super happy about it.
That's incredible. Also, flowers to you and your mom. I know your mom is a 2-time breast cancer survivor. Flowers to you both for being so proactive about your health because you know, we don't in this country do a lot of proactivity with our health. We wait till something happens.
For sure.
And it's really important for us to encourage women to be active in checking up.
100%, especially if you have certain things that run in your family.
Absolutely.
Like, highly encourage you to take it serious and start getting routine checkups as early as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really good slam dunk.
Thank
Jack.
you. Let's hear yours.
So my slam dunk of the week is I've been so busy and very harebrained. I have not been as present as I would like to be. But I had a moment this week. It was my sister's birthday, and I was supposed to go to her birthday dinner, and I was so busy during the day that I just simply forgot. I was like so crazy, so busy, and my mom called me. They were all at dinner, and they're like, where are you? And I'm like in the middle of making my kids dinner, and I just had like a mental meltdown about it because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going at such high speed right now that I'm not focusing on things that are really important. So I dropped everything and I decided I'm going to go get her flowers. And I bought her a beautiful bouquet. She loves flowers. And we just sat, no phones, and just chatted for like
Aww,
45 minutes.
Amazing.
And like I was so worried she was going to be really mad at me. And she was actually so kind about it.
That's
and
so
it just
nice.
showed me that like I put a lot of pressure on myself to succeed and to do everything, and I overcommit and sometimes underdeliver, which is a flaw I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good reminder that like, hey, it's okay. You can fix that.
Yeah.
And take a moment, acknowledge that you made the mistake, and go fix it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did, and I think it meant a lot to her. And like, she wasn't going to make me feel bad about it, but you know, I think it's just another reminder too to like, just like you were talking about our family, the quality of our relationships, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
And we can be ambitious, we can want to make money, we can want to have kids, we can want to adventure, we can do a lot of things that we want to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's so much about the communities we build and how we support them.
I love that. The main thing that sticks out for me on that is the response of your sister. And I think it's so important to have positive people that are going to allow you to make mistakes and allow you to be human and still accept you for who you are and accept you with open arms. So shout out to sis. I think that's really cool. And we all go through stuff like that, so you're not alone.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I appreciate it. So make sure you make time for yourself, people, and like put down the phones. It's really, really hard, but it's super important to have that present time. So,
Couldn't agree more.
And make
well
mistakes.
Said.
Make mistakes. It happens. But anyways, I think you're starting to get hangry.
I am at that level. When I get hangry, we're done. Like this podcast is done with.
All right, let's go get you a snack, boo.
Yeah, it's time for dinner.
All right,
like,
well, I love
full
you.
on feast.
Full on feast. What we having tonight?
Probably just chicken and a sweet potato, like real basic. You know how I feel about my sweet potatoes.
I know Nick is gonna barbecue sweet potatoes and chicken for you.
I'm still waiting for that barbecue.
I know, it's gonna be so fun.
Yeah.
Anyways, love you. Great
I
episode.
love you too. That was awesome.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.